Most people overpay for car insurance, not because they're careless, but because switching feels like too much hassle. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
You are listening to Hillary Topper on Air. And now, here's your host, Hillary Topper.
Welcome to Hillary Topper on Air, the show where we explore the stories, insights, and journeys of remarkable individuals from all walks of life, whether it's lawyers making an impact, endurance athletes pushing their limits, or authors sharing their creative worlds. We dive deep into the passions and pursuits that drive them. I'm your host, Hillary Topper, and I'm thrilled to have you with us today. Today's guest is Tommy Struzzeri. He's the driving force behind Alpha Win. Tommy has been revolutionizing the triathlon scene across the country, and we're thrilled to have him here to talk about his journey, his vision, and his latest venture, the Big Apple Triathlon in New York City. So, Tommy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Hillary.
Let's start with Alpha Win. For those who may not be familiar, can you share the story behind Alpha Win and how it evolved from HIIT's endurance?
Sure. So we started out as a horse show company that my father built, and he was running horse shows for 40 years at the time, and fell in love with the sport of triathlon. So from there, he wanted to start a business. You know, we were already running events in the horse world, so he knew he could run events in the endurance world as well. HIIT's endurance started in 2011, and our goal there was to have one race each month over 12 months. So 12 different races, 12 different states. And it was pretty successful. It was interesting to learn that business as I grew up. And I was in that, going to all the races and learning the business. And then in 2020, I took it over from my father and rebranded it. We are no longer in the horse business. So it was the right time to rebrand and also put my own flair on things. So it became Alpha Win, and we're New York based, and we have a couple of events in California, but trying to grow our calendar as we go. We navigated through some tough times in COVID, and now we said goodbye to some clients when we were in COVID, and now we said hello to some new clients when, after COVID, everybody's life changed. So you have to constantly reinvent yourself. And that's what we're doing at Alpha Win, running triathlons. I believe we have 10 or 11 on the calendar right now, and around the country, primarily in upstate New York and the upper part of California as well.
So, Alpha Win is known for offering a range of race distances, from beginner-friendly sprints to grueling Alpha 140.6. What inspired this something for everyone approach?
Sure. So that actually was started by my father as well. So going back to the horse business, when we first started that business, I was not alive, but when he started in the horse business, the horse world was only accessible to those who were elite or the terrifically wealthy people. He was basically the first one to have pros and amateurs at the same event, right? So and whereas you love having pros at your event, we all know that the amateurs make our sport and the age groupers, as we call it in triathlon. So we carried that same ideology into triathlon. offering, the shortest distance, whether it's a mile run to a marathon on the same day. That way you can give people goals. It's accessible to everybody. Anybody can run a mile or anybody can do a open triathlon. We found that they're only putting limitations on their own selves via their own mind. So if you've seen some of the people that do it, whether it's para athletes or whatever, that you'll be able to do it as well. So our goal really is to help you motivate to get to that longer distance, push yourself to be in shape and have fun and hopefully live a better life as you see some of our races.
Awesome. And also, your races take place in incredible locations like Napa Valley, Hudson Valley, and even now Costa Rica. How do you choose these destinations and what makes them so special for athletes?
Yeah, so we look for destination locations. We're excited about some of the new ones we're announcing. Napa Valley has been a staple of our business for past 12 years or so. And we're looking for places where people can go and stay a while and experience the area and then have a race to go to. At a lot of races, not to mention any names, but at a lot of the bigger races and the destination races, you may have to get there like 4 or 5 days before and pick up your packet. On our races, for the most part, with the exception of a couple, you can pick up your packet the day before or even the day of. So it provides that convenience where you can come and you don't have to shell out a bunch of extra days and take off work for a whole week just to come to a race.
So, you've been involved in endurance sports from a very young age, and you even competed in All-American age group triathlete. How has your personal experience shaped your approach to organizing races?
Sure. So that was probably the peak of my triathlon career, unfortunately. When I was 12 years old, raced a few of our hits races of our own company's races. At that point, I wasn't working as hard, so maybe I had some time to race our own races, which I'd love to do. But now I'm stuck doing the timing and stuff like that. I'd love to be able to race our own races, but yeah. So I grew up again going to the races. I found a passion for running and cycling, primarily running. The swimming I'm working on. You either come a triathlete for the most part usually comes from either swimming or running. It's not usual that at least in the U.S. they come from cycling. So I've come from running. Pursued a high school career in running, and then went to Syracuse and walked onto the track team there to run track. I'm still running after Syracuse. I recently completed a marathon. I avidly run every day. So and I try to get on the bike when I can when the weather's a little nicer. But right now it's been indoors.
Go Orange.
Yes.
So, okay, so let's take a step back. And you talked about how you took over your dad's company in 2020. What are some of the challenges and opportunities that you faced during that time, especially during the pandemic?
Yeah, so everything was challenging, and I think in business we may say that COVID's over, now it's easy, and that's not the case for any of us now either, as you know, Hillary. So anything in business is difficult, and any kind of success you see in the papers or whatever it is, people have had to go through some tough times to get there. So in 2020, that was a time where at the beginning of the year you're thinking it's only going to be a month and then we'll go back to racing. So what you're trying to do is because people are training for races. We realize that they put a lot of effort into that to get to a race. We wanted to give them the hope that there's a race at the end of their training. So we tried to hold off for as long as we could, but ended up having to cancel almost the whole year of racing. We were able to get a couple races on in some areas that were less strict, but it became difficult to run those. I think our company at that point, if we canceled the race, we refunded everyone, right? So, we were unique in that way during COVID. after COVID, you saw the opportunity. I mentioned it at the beginning of this call that a lot of people who in COVID, everybody's life changed during COVID, and you saw a lot of the experienced triathletes that have done it a while kind of leave the sport and maybe go into cycling or to pursue something different. Of course, we have our loyal people that are still there, but you also saw a lot of new, whether it's younger people or people who have never experienced triathlon before, come into the sport. So it was a terrific turn of turnover of people. You had a whole new group of people racing triathlon, and now, 5 years or 6 years later, you're looking at a completely different group of I say clients because that's what we service them, but athletes, of all different shapes and sizes, right? So, it's really a great opportunity for our business to, like I said, reinvent ourselves and continue to try to push ourselves to create new, exciting race experiences.
Do you see a trend in age groups? Like, are you seeing more younger people getting involved, more older people getting involved? What's the trend that you've been seeing in triathlon in the last year or so?
Yeah, so I've seen the trend of more younger people getting involved for sure. The typical triathlon athlete is middle aged, between 40 and 60. And I think that's still the case, but certainly where it was, you would never see any teenagers. And, now, USA Triathlon has done a great job as well of promoting that. We've been able to establish that triathlon is now a NCAA women's sport, right? So it is getting people pursue it in their high school days, and then they might be able to go to college for it and maybe even get paid to go to college for it. So that's been great. But you see people, whether it's the age of social media or things like that, but they get interested by it and they might do it at a younger age. I believe that we're tailoring towards the younger demographic, but that doesn't mean that you don't see the more experienced people doing it as well. So I think it's all across the board, but definitely you're getting more younger athletes into the sport these
Right.
days.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk about your newest venture. This is so exciting, the Big Apple Triathlon in New York City. What can participants expect from this event?
We're really excited. So, some history with this race. This is, so this is we're excited to announce the brand new Big Apple Triathlon. It's October 10th. And there was a little bit of a hiatus for triathlon in New York City with the New York City Triathlon, kind of deciding not to run anymore. So we came in and the city and ourselves have agreed that we're doing the same course as what was previously done. But we're sticking to our usual motto of a distance for everyone as much as we can, because we're adding a sprint distance. So there's a sprint and Olympic distance. It's in October, so it's not going to be it's will be cooler in the city, but not too cold. We expect the water temperature to be, high 60s to low 70s, which is really perfect for triathlon. But the sport needed a triathlon in the greatest city in the world. So we came in and we're trying to deliver that. Nothing about it is easy. Nothing about it is inexpensive, but we're trying to deliver the best possible experience using our hometown vibe. We still want to see you and talk to you at the race. So it may be a little different experience than a bigger, whether it's a 45,000 person marathon. This is limited to 2,500 people. We want to make it personable, and we want to bring the same feel that we bring to all of our other races, which is promoting new athletes and helping them pursue their goals.
What would you tell people? I did the New York City Triathlon back in 2016. And I remember the biggest fear for me was jumping into the Hudson River. I mean, what do you tell people when they say, "Oh my God, I can't jump into the Hudson River"? I thought it was an awesome experience, but share with me what your feedback is on that.
Sure. So the two big comments on the Hudson River is one is the fact that they're nervous about the tides. Um, that we're swimming with the tide, right? So we're going north this year, and the tide will be rising at that time. So you're swimming with the tide. It might be one of the easiest swims that you do. And despite the sprint and Olympic distance both being 1,500 meters, it's it's still a quick swim. I think that the last time they swam this, most people broke the world record, right, in the 1,500 meter swim. So it's a quick swim. You don't even really have to move your arms at some points when we're going with the tide. So you're not swimming against the tide, and it's very safe. I think we there's going to be at least 60 just lifeguards in the water. I can talk about some of the police boats as well. And you're looking at only 2,500 athletes. The rule that we live by is usually one for every 50 athletes, a lifeguard, right? So you have 60 spread out, and you have a bunch of different FDNY boats and police boats and medical boats. So it's a very safe experience. We have them laid out into different zones to really make sure it's safe. The second comment that you hear is the cleanliness of the water. And so we're working closely with the DEP, and they've told us that it's clean. It's been dramatically cleaner than it was in the past. And does that mean that you're gonna definitely swim at any triathlon? You have that risk of, if it rains for 3 weeks before it, and there's some runoff, it could happen at any race. But working closely with the DEP, they've said that this is as safe as any other race that we do, to be able to swim.
Great. And I thought when I swam it, I thought it was actually really clean, to be honest. Like I felt like I could see right down to the bottom, which does not happen when I swim locally. So let's talk a little bit about the bike course. So you've got them, I guess the transition would be the same. It will be on the west side, and then they ride the Henry Hudson Parkway. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so almost the entire race is on the west side. So you're starting swimming from 79th to 99th Street going north. You get out of the water, you go underneath the Henry Hudson Parkway, you transition at 101st Street Field. So you're running underneath the highway to get to transition. When you leave transition, you're going to head north on your bike. The Henry Hudson Parkway is closed, 3 lanes, all northbound lanes. So you're riding with no traffic, which you don't do in the city, which is just great and should provide for a great experience. The sprint distance will turn around right around the George Washington Bridge, so another iconic spot. And then the Olympic distance continues on into the Bronx and turns around twice as far. And then both distances will come back south and then exit they turn around and they again and exit transition to the right to go back to the same transition. So one transition. If we're looking at the New York City race as it couldn't be much more convenient with one transition area. I know a lot of big city races have multiple transition areas. So you would then leave transition on the run, and then you're heading to Central Park, where we close 96th Street to run all the way into Central Park, and you're finishing in the most iconic running spot in the world, perhaps. So really a iconic race with a lot of great photo opportunities and convenient for those who live in New York City.
Absolutely. And how do you see the Big Apple Triathlon fitting into your broader vision of Alpha Win?
Yeah, so our future is bright. We've announced a couple different races this year. I think we have 3 new races on the calendar this year, and I'm looking for those key races that we can add to the calendar and continue to grow our business. So I think to experience the Big Apple Triathlon, a lot of our races will run the same. I still want to keep that hometown feel, that local race director feel at our races. But I see us having starting to get into this bigger market of races as we go forward.
So exciting. So looking ahead, right? You are expanding and you have new races, even an international racer now in Tamarindo, triathlon in Costa Rica. What's next?
I'm gonna keep doing my thing and continue to run and bike and pursue my own personal athletic goals and continue to try to grow our business. I think this is a big year for us. We put a lot on the calendar, continuing to try to expand our calendar. And we're gonna, that's not everything. Not everything's gonna change in a week. So right now, I'm putting my head down and doing some work. Is what's next? Is because there's a lot of you can talk a lot on these calls, but if you don't deliver a great race experience, you're not doing your job.
And for somebody who's considering their first triathlon, what advice would you give them and why should they choose Alpha Win?
I think that the advice I'd give you is that you need to believe in yourself. I myself coach. I volunteer to coach at the local high school where I live. For track and cross country, and I think that even in a young age, you see people that just are continue to told, they're being told that they can't do things and they're not good enough. And so if you start believing in yourself and you come experience some of these races before you race, you can actually get inspired because you'll see who and how the people are doing these things. So that's the first advice I'd give them. Why Alpha Win? A lot of our races are relaxed and in an atmosphere where it's really good for beginners. Some of our courses, every course we say rolling hills. So some of the courses are challenging, of course, but we do have those shorter distances that you can experience to kind of move up and like I said, the convenience factor of going to the race the day before and picking up your packet is always good.
Great. Ray, do you have any questions?
Sure. I find that discussion about, attracting people to triathlon really interesting because, when you're young, before you start a family or, really get into your career, you have the time and energy, to devote to a sport that really is probably the most time intensive of any sport, especially once you get beyond the sprint stage. But again, once you get into your 30s, you're working on your family or career, you just don't have the time. But then when you hit your 50 and 60s, you have the time, you have the money, but then you may start just aging out, whether it's knees or hips or whatever. So I was just wondering, in terms of marketing triathlon, do you take different approaches to try to appeal to different demographics?
I do. That's a great question, Ray, and you hit it nail on the head there with how triathlon has worked since the beginning of triathlon. You look at, I mentioned if you're promoting to a younger audience, they're on different platforms. They get their news differently than someone more experienced. I don't ever like to say the other word so because I announce too much at the races, so I never say it. But so you might be looking at, for example, you might be looking at TikTok or Instagram. Whereas, if you look at the data, and USA Triathlon provides a lot of this on their website too, you can look at kind of the data of the triathlete and where they come from in the United States. You might be looking at LinkedIn or Facebook for social media, and then general news and radio and because people get inspired and look at their news differently. That's the first thing I would say to attract people. The second thing is to cater your races to different types of people, right? If you're doing a race that maybe a little more, again, like have a younger vibe to it, maybe the music is different, maybe it's you want to attract everybody, so you want to make sure that everybody relates to the music they're finishing too. And it may not be a big deal for everybody, but you may want 70s on when you're finishing, because those are the kind of things that we do to spread the wealth. But still, you mentioned that after you started your family and you're in a good spot financially, that's the most common time to join triathlon. And so I think that we're always continuing to try to get athletes in as early as possible. the NCAA sport, hopefully again we have a men's sport at some point, but we have women's NCAA is finally an NCAA sport, which is a big step for this for trying to get younger people in. You know, in my area in New York, the West Point Triathlon team, you know, has 30 athletes that and the coach there, Amy Maxwell, has camps and stuff like that. But the biggest way to promote to different athletes is, I always say it to USA Triathlon and all those people, is that you need a race to go to, you need a coach to coach you there, and you need a club to make friends and get inspired. So those are the three: clubs, coaching, and races will continue to grow this sport.
Okay, that's great. I've done your Kingston race a few times, and I really enjoy, the site, just because it to me it's almost like the perfect triathlon, at least the layout. You have a lake that you swim in, so you have really good conditions. A great bike course, and then the run, because you're always dealing with heat in the summer, you have a shady run, so it's terrific. It's really ideal. I just want to know, I know you, in one year, I think the bridge was being worked on, you sent the course north and you went by that mine, which was really kind of cool because you had this blast of cold air which seemed to come out of nowhere. Are you ever going to send the course north again, or are you always going to send it south?
So you would be, everybody acts differently, right? So you're telling me great things, which I love to hear. Some like to go south better, right? So, there is caves on both, when you go north and south. So what Ray's talking about, Hillary, is that race, you may have run it, but you go by these caves and it's a blast of cold air. It's pretty cool. There's some old like mining thing, it's some old buildings that are kind of broken down. So it's a very cool rural course. But if you go south, you do hit a little caves. I really love about that race the railroad trestle that you go across in
Yeah.
Rosendale. So,
Mhm.
that's kind of our promotional piece. So I'm going to continue to go
Right.
south there as much as I can.
Yeah, you feature
Um,
it on your shirts too.
yeah, exactly. So, I like the fact that we can go south. I'm about to announce that bike course is going to change a little bit, to make it a little, I think it's going to even elevate it a little more. So,
Ooh.
so always looking for,
Just looking forward to that.
yeah, no, it's going to be the same bike course, but, I'm just avoiding a few turns I didn't quite like. So I guess the point would be trying to adapt as much as we can to athlete feedback and
Mhm.
how we feel the races lay out. My dad and I still work on this together, so it's not really just me, and he's always giving ideas. So, we find locations that we love, that are located near to where people are living, so it's convenient for them. And we make them destination races. So, I did inherit our most successful race series, which is the Napa Valley Triathlon. We actually end up doing it twice because of the amount of demand that there is out there. And then, we acquired the June Lake Triathlon out in California, which is just astonishing to even look at the way the course lays out and how epic it is with the mountain background. So really pretty spots. Some of them are from me, some of them are from him. But we try to find great spots with, like Ray said, great places to swim, bike, and run that may be near some athletes.
How can people sign up and get more involved with Alpha Win races?
So our website, alpha.win, has all of our registration and information there. You can follow us on social media. Alpha Win Racing is our tag. And then, Big Apple Triathlon is our big staple race this year. That's bigappletriathlon.com. And we're, in May, we have a big running race, which is Hudson Valley Marathon. That's hudsonvalleymarathon.com.
This show was produced by Hillary Topper and sponsored by the Russo Law Group, Long Island's signature elder law, estate planning, and special needs law firm. For more information, visit vjrussolaw.com. And PlayTry, your multi-sport specialist for all your triathlon needs. They have so many opportunities, including franchising. If you love the sport of triathlon, check out playtry.com and learn more about opportunities, or if you want to shop there, check them out. They've got great prices and they've got amazing customer service.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.